Hello guys again, I'm so glad to see y'all. I decided to jump on here and make a video today because I kind of want to talk about the way we do matching arrangements in our classroom for floral design. And we do it a little bit different than some people do it. It's the way I have always done it and makes it easier for me, so that's how we're going to do this. So we had an order come in this morning for some arrangements for our counselors, because it's counselor week here at school. And we have a few leftover flowers, but not a ton of just a bunch of stuff. So we're going to kind of try to make this work. So I went ahead and gridded these glass red cubes with clear tape. We talked about that in another video I did. And it's really simple. And if you have questions about that, you're more than welcome to ask at any time. But I have these. I have a little spring bow I'm going to add in with some color for some springy look, because it is February, but it is getting kind of springy, so I like to add some colors to it. And these are all the flowers we have left, greenery and everything. So I have some red and pink carnations left over from our flower of the month. I have some pink lilies left over from our flower of the month. I have a bunch of baby's breath, which I am just not a fan of baby's breath, but we're going to use it in this. And I finally found out what this is. Nobody commented and told me, but I saw it in another video. I think it's called dragon's breath. So I think that's what it's called. So we're going to use a little bit of this. I have some of this left over. I have just this little bitty bit of salal tips as our greenery. That's all I have for all four of these arrangements. And then I have a little bit of myrtle that may end up in there, and I have a lot of bear grass. So I may do some, little shoots of grass coming out of them too. I don't really know what these are going to look like yet, but I'm going to show you how I do matching arrangements all at one time, and also how I teach students to do them all at one time. So, real quick, I'm going to start with our form flower, and I'm going to start with 2 in each vase because these take up a lot of room, and I feel like this is a good place to start. So I'm going to go ahead and sit 2 beside each vase that I'll be working with. So these are pink lilies. I'm going to go ahead and pull off our little sleeves off of them so they can go ahead and start opening up the more heat they get on them. So I'm going to start with 2 lilies. Let me grab a trash can real quick because I don't want to have to chase the trash all over the place today. I'm going to sit it right here. Okay. So I start by just peeling all those lower leaves off, okay? But I'm going to leave a lot of these leaves up here because we're not going to have a whole ton of a lot of greenery. So you've got to work with what you were given, okay? I'm going to start with one in the middle, I think, or out the side. I don't really know yet. Yeah, we're going to bring it out the side, okay? Now we're going to go in the middle, okay? Like that. And I'm going to come with a second one, a little bit shorter. Actually, a little bit shorter, and stick it right there beside it, just like that, okay? So I'm going to move to my next one. So I build everything as I go. Okay, I'm going to do the exact same thing in the second one. Straight down the middle in the first. Kind of sticks off to the side. And then one sticking straight up out of this back little slot right there. Okay? If it'll stay. So you may have to start separating them apart more as you do this so you have more space for them to actually, you can kind of figure out where they're going to fall. Right down in the middle to start out with, and then one right on the edge. Now, I have known some florists that leave these on until they deliver them. These are going to be delivered today, so there's really no reason to do that. But if you practice that, that's perfectly fine. Okay, so I'm just going to go for all 4 of these at one time. So they look as similar as possible because we want them to all stay in the same price point because they're all being delivered for the same thing. Okay, so I've got 2 sets of lilies in each one. Okay? So I think that's all we're going to do right now with the lilies. I'm going to come in with a little bit of carnations. I think I'm going to do 4 reds in each one. Because I think I have enough to do that. 4 red carnations in each one. I think that'll be a good amount. And I also have plenty of them, so it's a good way to start that. Now, as you're doing this, your red carnations, these are really still closed up a lot. You need to put your hand up close to the top of the bloom and the calyx and really open them up, okay? Because it will really help them pick up some space, okay? So also this is going to have a bow in it, so I'm going to leave kind of a little gapped area for a bow. Okay. Oops, lost one of the trash can. I'm going to leave a little gap area in the front or the side or wherever I'm going to put the bow for the bow to go. Okay. This size arrangement is really popular to send out because this is a good price point for us to send out because it's affordable. We charge, if we were doing like a grab cooler for these, we charge about $25 to $30 one of these little ones because that's just the way we do it. And it's a good price point and it's a good visual for people to figure out what they're going to get for that amount of money. Now, if you were in a florist, these would cost more money, of course, because they have overhead and everything to pay for, but we don't have to pay for that through the grace of education. So, we don't have to worry about paying for certain things because you don't have to worry about that. Okay? Okay. So, I will just keep going on these as we put them together and do each step equally. Now sometimes, if I have a plan and I have a set number of flowers to do these for like an event or something, I'll make one up at the very beginning and I will have it pre-made so that I can look back at it. Now, since I don't have a set number of flowers that we can use in this, because I'm just working with leftovers, I do them all at one time. But sometimes I would have like a pre-made matching one already in the works so that I can make sure every one of them matches it, okay? So you could say this is kind of going to be an English mass, but not really because we're working with flowers that just kind of is what we have. If I was ordering this in and I was going to do an English mass, I would order a lot of mass flowers, a lot of foreign flowers that are really big and bulky to take up a lot of space. This would be a good arrangement to do hydrangeas in. It also could work as your arbiter or your grid. So that's a really, if you had that option, that'd be a really good way to do this. But we don't have that option today. These need to be delivered first thing, either at the end of, well, first thing in the morning probably is when they're going to get delivered. And we have to make sure they're ready to go. So they're not all identical, but they're similar. So now I'm going to come in with, I think, 4 pinks per thing. 4 pinks per vase in here. Once again, we're just using what we have available to us. You may not have, again, that's all our reincarnations. You may not have all these available to you at this time, so you just make the numbers work with what you have. Okay, once again, I'm fluffing these open really nice and big and pretty and sticking them in the arrangement. So this is one way that if you are training your students to use less greenery and be a little bit more economical, because sometimes as floral design teachers, I know I'm really guilty of this, I teach my kids to use a ton of greenery because I would rather us use a ton of greenery than have, you know, our mechanics showing. But if you don't have a ton of greenery at your disposal at that moment, you may have to do something like this. It's a really good way to do that. And also, this is a good way to make more money because you can put more flowers in it, you can cover up everything with more flowers, and it costs more money to get it because it has more expensive floral in it, because floral is naturally more expensive than most greeneries. Now there are some greeneries out there that are very expensive that you would use, that you could use, but this is not one that I would use that, and most floral design teachers don't get into really expensive greeneries because we don't have really big, huge budgets to waste on greenery. So we normally lean towards Salal tips and literally 90% of the time, because that's what we can afford. Okay, so it's a good way to teach your kids a different way to make arrangements than you're used to. So if I was really smart, I would have went through and fluffed all these before I started, and it would take me less time. But since I didn't know where I was going with this, I kind of waited till after I got started to fluff them because I wanted to make sure I had enough space. Now these are going to be real pink because that's what we have, and that's what we're available to give out. If I was doing these just, once again, if I had a lot more in my cooler and this wasn't the end of Flower of the Month and we weren't cleaning out for Valentine's Day, which we get our order in this week. I know some of y'all, especially you florists, may have already got some of your flowers in. We get ours in the 8th, I believe, or the 9th. I can't remember. I gotta look at my calendar. But we get them in this week, and we will start processing those flowers immediately, of course, and we'll process them really well to make sure they last longer. And then we will start greening vases. I like to have all our vases greened for dozen roses and half dozens and bud vases before we ever start, well, not bud vases as much, but the other ones before we ever start putting flowers in them, because that's one less thing we do. And we also don't always sell all of our flowers pre-ordered for our Valentine's Day sale at our school. Some people probably have more success with that than I do, getting stuff sold pre-order. But I always order extras because I love flowers, and we'll always do something with them a little bit more than what we may or may not have done if we would have pre-ordered them and just ordered what we needed. So I sell a lot of flowers the day of the thing. Okay, so now we're going to come in with, I think that's enough lilies. I think we're going to come in with a little bit of, we're going to use this myrtle here in a minute too, but we're going to wait just a little bit. I think we're going to come in with a little bit of lemon leaf in each one. And like I said, I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 stems of lemon leaf to use. So therefore, I'm not going to use a ton of it. So I'm going to come in with my lemon leaf next, okay? And some of y'all are probably really organized, like people when it comes to designing. I'm kind of a harem-scarum kind of guy. Like, I just kind of just go with whatever's happening and make it work. But some people really think everything out and really think everything through and do a really good job with that. And I am not one of those people when it comes to orders like this. I kind of just play it by ear and see what we can get done in a timely fashion. Okay. So it's also really good. I've done this in my Floral 2 class before where I like have a scenario and they think that we literally have to have these flowers out by the end of class, and I have like 10 arrangements to do and everybody has to make 2 or whatever the number is. So they're stressing and it's like a real floral shop. Some of y'all may not do that to your kids. I find it kind of entertaining and actually makes them use what they have learned to their advantage. So I've done scenarios like this. We did one, I don't know, right before Christmas, I think, where I said, oh, we had an order come in at 8 this morning, and my Floral 1 class is my first period. I said, we had an order come in at 8 this morning, and we have to get flowers out to them ASAP. They need them by, 9:30 or whatever. It's 6 arrangements, whatever the asinine number is. And they're like, oh my gosh, how do we do this? Ah! They start freaking out. Well, that's kind of what florists go through every day sometimes, because it's no big deal for a person to call into a florist and be like, I need flowers and I didn't order them. And if you're a florist, you know what I'm talking about. I need flowers today and I didn't order them and I want these, and these, this kind of stuff in it. And sometimes you're just like, hey dog, we can't do that on that shorter notice. And sometimes we have to do that in our classes as well and kind of remind them that we're not a florist or a wholesaler that has all these things just at our disposal. Okay, so now I'm going to pull out a little bit of bear grass for each one. There's a few different things you can do. I really am a fan of lily grass more when it comes to manipulating things, but bear grass will work just fine. And it is a more affordable option. And when it's what you have in the cooler, it's what you have in the cooler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple different size little loops like this, like that, and I'm going to anchor tape these together, which I should always pull off my anchor tape first, because it is waterproof, but it doesn't just stick to just everything, okay people? So you've got to be very careful what you put your anchor tape through, okay? So I'm going to make 1 or 2 of these per arrangement. And I'm going to stick them in there somehow. I have probably in the back of this one, but I'll kind of stick out a little bit because it kind of gives it a little bit more of an edge. I'm going to rip me a couple more pieces off of anchor tape. The only problem is when I don't like this brand of anchor tape, I'm not a fan of. I like Oasis brand the best. So when I get a brand I don't like, I don't use it very much. And that's why I return that one. So that's one reason we don't use a ton of it. Okay. So I'm going to take 2 and make a little loop, or 3. Make a loop. Take 2 more. Make a loop. A little bit bigger loop. There we go. And I'm going to take these together. Okay. So this can be a little bit time consuming sometimes. And I mean, some things at floral are just time consuming. So you got to remember to do, work your time out where it works good for you, especially if you're on a time crunch of some kind to get this stuff out to the customer. So I love orders like this coming into our classroom because it forces us to be more like a florist. Sometimes we have everything perfectly planned out and we send these kids out to be work for a florist. They're not ready for all this, insanity that happens sometimes, especially around certain holidays. We really cushion it for them and really mess with them a little bit on successfulness because we don't make our classrooms, realistic enough to be a florist. Now I have one student right now actually that works in a floral shop, and she loves it, and she likes the unpredictability of knowing what's going to happen next. And she absolutely loves working in a floral shop. So some kids really flourish in that environment and some kids don't. So you need to make sure you give them some reality in what a florist is going to be like before they jump in there and head first and have a little meltdown. So I really like to do that. Okay, so as you can tell, these are not going to be identical. They're going to be pretty similar. Of course, they're not. All these women that are all these ladies that are getting these for counselors are not all the same office. So that's a good problem. It's in the elementary, high school, and junior high. I work at a smaller school. It's a 3A district in Northeast Texas, close to Arkansas-ish area. So, I mean, like, we're not very far from Texarkana, about 45 minutes, and you can be in Texarkana. So, we're in a small district, so I like to do these fun little things for our people in our school, but it is sometimes mentally exhausting. So, see, I have 2 pieces of myrtle, and I'm going to cut these in half somehow and stick them in there. Kind of like that, maybe. And I'm going to just kind of peel the bottom half of these off and stick them right down in the middle. Because that's what you should normally do with a lime flower, is have it sticking up out of the arrangement somehow. Since I'm only going to put one in each arrangement, that's what I'm going to do. And sometimes, and y'all can tell me what y'all do as florists, high school floral teachers. Some floral teachers won't touch anything. Like, they refuse to touch anything. Like, I'm not making the flowers, I'm not the student. I understand that method. And then some teachers are more like me, that you kind of jump in head first with the kiddos and figure it out as you go. Which preference do y'all prefer? I prefer of like them seeing me do it too, and we learning it together. If I don't know how to do it, we learn it together at the same time. If I do know how to do it, then I kind of give them some wisdom on it. Okay, the last thing I'm going to add in, well, last thing, actually I have to put more things in. I'm going to come in with a little bit of baby's breath. And baby's breath is one of those things, I'm sorry guys, it's really creepy about baby's breath. Baby's breath is one of those things that can take over an arrangement really easily. Because one reason is it's just so poofy. So that's one reason I like using it. And it's also a cheaper, it's just cheaper to use. So I'm not in love with it for that reason either. There's just not many things I like about baby's breath. But I understand why we use it in the floral industry, because it is a very long laster. So I understand why we use it. I'm not sure I agree with using it a ton. But you have to be really careful with baby's breath, because it will take over the whole arrangement if you don't really place it in there really, strategically. And it gets real granny looking sometimes if you're not careful. So I'm not a big baby's breath fan. You could say would be an understatement. But I understand the necessariness of it, and that students need to learn how to use it, because they're gonna use it in floral design, especially if they go into an older, more established shop that has an older way of designing. They're gonna touch a lot of baby's breath because it's very predictable. So it's a good filler to work with if you want to know what you're getting and what you're working with. It's a really good one to work with. And lots of people still love baby's breath. Lots of people in the community, or the public, love baby's breath. I am not one of those people, but that doesn't mean that everybody else shouldn't like it. Just because me as a designer don't like it. Now, I do use it in designs when we have to. That doesn't you know, I mean, I love using it in design, but it means that we do use it. Okay. What is that one? Okay. Add a little bit more to this one. Just to fill in a couple gaps that are in it. Okay. So for Valentine's Day, do y'all use baby's breath in your arrangement? In your Valentine's arrangement? And if you do, why do you do that? My first question. And do you find that you make just as much money using baby's breath as if you were using, let's say, wax flour or Solidago or something like that? It's a little bit more expensive and a little bit more, in my opinion, trendy. But what do y'all do in y'all's classrooms? Anyways, and just comment these answers, these questions I keep asking, just comment these answers down below. And eventually we're probably going to start doing lives. I'm not 100% sure on that. I got to figure that all out. And in between teaching ag and the spring semester of teaching ag is very busy. So between being an ag teacher and trying to start a YouTube presence and trying to run a floral little side business can be a little bit excessive sometimes. So sometimes I kind of let things fall to the side that don't matter as much to me. Okay, so that's kind of so far what we're going to do. I'm going to bring in a little bit of this dragon's breath. I just think it is so pretty, and it's just a wonderful little filler. I think it's actually classified as a greenery, but I'm going to use it as a filler flower as well today. So I'm probably going to put 3 or 4 stems in each one. And I just think it's really romantic and really wispy looking. So I really like that about the dragon breath. And if I'm calling it the wrong thing, y'all let me know, please. It just makes it a little bit more loose and free. And I really like that look when it comes to arrangements. A little bit more airy. Okay. I'm going to keep sticking this stuff in. And if you're wondering, this is my conference period, so I'm doing this during my conference period, which is important because I'm planning and taking care of business, but I'm also learning new techniques to teach my kiddos. So, hopefully the bell doesn't ring before we get done. That would be really bad, because lunch is next, and I will cut this video off and I will go eat lunch. And y'all will never see the end of it because I gotta have my lunch breaks. So I eat lunch, my brother teaches with me, so I eat lunch with him sometimes during the week. But lots of the time I eat lunch with the English department here at our school because I'm really good friends with those ladies. And I go and eat lunch with them quite a bit. And it's just a really fun little refresh time. Our little 30-minute lunch break is just really, just a really fun little time. So I feel like getting out and hanging out with other people other than the ag department is kind of fun sometimes at school because you get to know them a little bit better and you make up friendships other than just the ag department. Let me get a little bit more of this so a little bit more of this, just in this one arrangement down here on the end. Would be perfect. Get a little bit more. Ooh, that was a stiff stem. Okay. So far that's kind of where we're at as far as that goes. I have mostly all my floral in there. I'm going to put in there. I think they're super cute, but real quick, I don't know how long this video is so far. I can't see that far. I'm going to make 4 matching bows. So I have this really pretty green ribbon I purchased yesterday at Canton First Monday. There's a little craft store over there that sits up at Canton First Monday. I don't know the name of it, but I will let y'all know eventually when I make another video, because I purchased quite a bit of ribbon from them. And it was 50% off of $12. So this was $6 for 50 yards of this green ribbon. So I am all about a good deal. And it's a really pretty ribbon. It's very springy. So I'm going to cut 4 pieces of this that are similar length. If I can get a hold of them all. 4 similar length pieces of this lime green ribbon, which I think is wonderful. I love green. And then I have this tie-dye ribbon that I think is super cute. I got this at Dollar Tree in the plus section for $3, and it was 12 yards. Yeah, 12 yards. So I'm going to cut 4 pieces that are a little bit shorter than the green ones. And some of you are like, well, how long is that? I'm not a real big measurer. I just kind of eyeball it. I have always hated measuring things when I was even a child. Like building things, like, oh, that looks about right. So I'm not like I'm like, we'll make, it's an art, not a science type thing. So I just kind of play it by ear. And so, with all that being said, I just kind of cut the ribbon. I don't really worry about the lengths of, I worry about the length, but they're not like the exact same length. Okay, so we're going to make a 2-loop bow. We're going to start, again, come down and pinch a little bit. And then we're going to twist the long tail, make a loop, twist the long tail. Actually, no, we're not. We're just going to make 1 loop out of that, okay? Sorry, we're just going to make 1 loop out of that. Then I'm going to start the tie-dye ribbon the tail the opposite way we ended it. And I'm going to make 1 good-sized loop out of the tie-dye ribbon. So I have a 2-loop bow with 4 tails. So tails really make bows the best, okay? Sometimes people don't understand that, so they forget that tails just make it have more texture, more depth. I love a lot of tails in a bow. And I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday after church, while we're at Canton, and she has been tying bows since before I was born, I'm pretty sure, because her and my mom are about the same age. And she was like, I love size method because it has more tails in it. And that's one reason I use this method the most. Now, there's probably 4 or 5 other methods that you could definitely use that may be easier for you to do, but this is the simplest method that I use, okay? Ooh, that loop is big. So I'm making my loops a little bit bigger for a small arrangement because we don't have a lot of floral in this arrangement. So it kind of helps drive that more professional look home. And I do realize that some of y'all are probably sitting here like, he's putting lime green and tie-dye and all that with red and pink flowers and a red base. I'm trying to make it not look Valentine's-y. So that's my purpose with this. Adding this ribbon instead of a pink ribbon or a white ribbon or a red ribbon or even a black ribbon. I'm trying to make this not Valentine's. Okay? That's why I'm doing it this way. Because I don't want them to feel like they're getting a Valentine's arrangement on Secretary's Day because, not Secretary, what is this? Counselor Week, because theirs fell on the same week as Counselor Week this week. Okay? I don't want them to feel that way. Okay, so now I'm going to fluff my bow out, which is probably the most important part of making a bow. It's fluffing it out really pretty. And then I'm going to find my hole in the front. And I will sometimes put this on a stem. I don't have an available stem because we're out of all that. I'm just going to find a hole in the front and stick it down in there. Okay. And I'm just going to crinkle this up real nice and make it look really cute and springy with a bow. Okay. So I'm going to continue this process on repeat for each arrangement. So these will all finish out and look very similar to this right here. Guys, I'm going to finish this a little bit here in a minute because the bell is about to ring, but I hope y'all enjoyed this video and learned how to make very similar arrangements all at the same time. And I'm so excited that y'all are choosing to watch my videos, and I hope to see you next time, and thank you so much, and we'll see you when we see you.